The combat endurance trial that proved Deathworlders are oblivious to danger. Part 1, the space station called Nexus 7 floated in the darkness between stars. It was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. Hundreds of alien species lived and worked there. Ships came and went every hour, carrying diplomats, soldiers, and traders from across the galaxy. Captain Do-hyun Kim stood in the docking bay and looked around with quiet interest. He was a fit man in his mid-30s, wearing the dark blue uniform of Earth's military. Behind him stood 3 other humans, all members of his special operations team. They had traveled for weeks to reach this place. Lieutenant Ji-won Park checked her medical scanner one more time. She was the team's doctor and scientist, always careful and thorough. Sergeant Min-ho Lee stretched his shoulders and yawned. He carried most of the team's weapons and never seemed worried about anything. Corporal Yuna Choi was the youngest, only 26 years old. She was already playing with her technical equipment, curious about the alien technology around them. A tall figure approached them. It looked like a giant mantis standing on 2 legs. Its body was covered in green armor plates and its compound eyes shimmered with many colors. This was Commander Velthar, one of the Threndarian species. He was in charge of the Federation's combat trials. "Welcome to Nexus 7, Velthar said. His voice came through a translator device. "You are the first humans to participate in our combat endurance trial. Please follow me to the briefing room." The briefing room was made of some kind of crystal that glowed with soft blue light. Other aliens sat in the observation area above, watching with interest. Some looked like birds with 4 arms. Others were covered in fur or scales. A few were just floating balls of light. Earth was new to the galaxy, and everyone was curious about humans. Velthar activated a holographic display. Images of harsh environments appeared in the air. Mountains of ice, deserts of burning sand, toxic swamps, and dark caves. The combat endurance trial tests your physical strength, mental toughness, and ability to survive, Velthar explained. All new species must complete this trial. It helps us understand where you can serve in the Federation military. He clicked to the next image. 3 levels appeared: Standard, Advanced, and Extreme. Most species choose Standard difficulty, Velthar continued. It lasts 2 days and tests basic survival skills. Advanced difficulty is for warrior species with natural advantages like armor or strength. It lasts 3 days. Extreme difficulty, and he paused. No species has ever completed Extreme. It lasts 4 days and includes conditions that would kill most life forms. We use it only to study how different species break under pressure. Do-hyun looked at his team. Ji-won nodded slightly. Minho shrugged. Yuna gave a thumbs up. "We'll take Extreme," Do-hyun said calmly. The room went silent. In the observation area above, aliens began making shocked sounds. Velthar's antennae twitched, which meant he was surprised. "Captain Kim," Velthar said carefully, "I must inform you that extreme difficulty is not meant to be survived. The gravity alone would crush most species. The temperature changes would freeze or cook them. The atmosphere is toxic to 70% of known life forms." "What are the supply restrictions?" Do-hyun asked. "You get basic rations, water, medical supplies, and communication equipment," Velthar replied. "And the time limit?" Ji-won added, 4 days. "But again, no one expects you to last that long. You can request withdrawal at any time with no shame." Do-hyun smiled politely. "We understand. Extreme difficulty, please." Velthar's mandibles clicked together nervously. "Very well. You have 6 hours to prepare. Your quarters are ready. I hope you know what you're doing." The human team left the briefing room. Behind them, the observation area erupted into loud discussion. Aliens argued and gestured wildly. Some thought the humans were brave. Others thought they were foolish. A few wondered if humans understood what extreme meant. In their assigned quarters, the team unpacked their gear. The room was comfortable but strange, designed for species that didn't necessarily sit or sleep like humans did. "This armor is bulky," Yuna complained, holding up a protective vest. "We have better stuff back home." "Make it work," Do-hyun said. "We represent Earth. Let's show them what we can do." Ji-won examined the medical supplies with a frown. "These are pretty basic. I was hoping for better equipment. But I guess it's enough for minor injuries." Minho picked up a ration pack and squeezed it. "This looks worse than military food back home." Didn't think that was possible. They spent the next few hours checking equipment, reviewing maps of the trial area, and going over their standard procedures. To them, this was just another training exercise, maybe a bit harder than usual. They had done survival training in the mountains during winter. They had practiced in deserts during summer. They had run combat drills while tired, hungry, and hurt. This would be challenging, but they were ready. Outside their quarters, alien technicians watched through security cameras and whispered to each other. The humans seemed too relaxed, too casual. Didn't they understand the danger? Several technicians started placing bets on how quickly the humans would quit. When the 6 hours ended, the team gathered their gear and walked to the trial arena entrance. A massive door stood before them, made of thick metal. Warning signs covered it in dozens of alien languages. Velthar met them there. This is your last chance to choose a different difficulty level. There is no shame in it. We're good, Do-hyun said. Let's begin. The commander's mandibles clicked again. He pressed a button and the door began to open. A rush of hot air blew out, carrying strange smells. Beyond the door, they could see a wild landscape of rocks and twisted plants. Dark clouds swirled overhead. Lightning flashed in the distance. The environment will change every 6 hours, Velthar explained. Gravity will shift. Temperature will swing from very cold to very hot. The air contains chemicals that burn most species' skin. You will face combat drones, environmental hazards, and physical exhaustion. Your communication devices will connect to our observation center. Use them if you need to withdraw. Understood, Do-hyun said. He looked at his team. Ready? They nodded. Together, they stepped through the door into the arena. The metal door slammed shut behind them with a deep boom. In the observation deck high above, hundreds of aliens crowded around viewing screens. Every major species in the Federation had sent representatives to watch. Word had spread quickly about the humans' choice of extreme difficulty. The timer started counting down from 4 days. The environmental systems activated with a mechanical roar. Gravity increased slightly. The temperature began to rise. Toxic particles filled the air. On the screen, the 4 humans moved forward into the harsh landscape. Do-hyun took point, scanning the area. Ji-won checked everyone's vital signs on her medical scanner. Minyo kept his weapon ready. Yuna examined the environment with her technical equipment. All right, team. Do-hyun's voice came through the communication system. Let's treat this like the survival course back in Gangwon Province. Remember the winter mountain training? This is similar, maybe a bit harder. Stay focused, watch each other's backs. We should finish this before dinner in 4 days. Minho laughed. If the food here is as bad as those rations, I might prefer to stay in the arena. In the observation deck, Velthar stood completely still, watching the screens. His compound eyes reflected the display lights. Around him, other aliens whispered and pointed. The humans weren't panicking. They weren't even looking worried. They were joking. A small, furry alien near Velthar squeaked, "Commander, do they understand what extreme means?" Velthar's mandibles clicked slowly. "I don't think they do," he said quietly. Or perhaps we don't understand what humans mean by prepared. On the screen, the human team moved deeper into the arena. The trial had begun. The observers settled in to watch what they assumed would be a quick but interesting failure. None of them could imagine what was really about to happen. Part 2, 6 hours passed. The human team had moved 3 kilometers into the arena, setting up their first camp near a rock formation that provided some shelter from the wind. The observers in the deck above watched every movement. Suddenly, alarms beeped across the observation systems. The gravity settings began to change. Numbers climbed on the displays. 1.5 times normal gravity, 1.8, 2.0, 2.3. The observation deck erupted in concerned voices. A bird-like alien with purple feathers flapped its wings nervously. "That gravity would crush my bones," it chirped. A large rock-covered alien nodded. "My species can handle it, but we evolved on a high-gravity world. We have dense bodies and thick bones. These humans look so soft, so fragile." On the screen, the 4 humans paused. They looked at each other. "Anyone else feel that?" Minyo asked. He bounced slightly on his feet, testing the new weight. Gravity increased, Yuna confirmed, checking her instruments. "We're at about 2.3 times Earth normal now." Ji-won scanned each team member with her medical device. Heart rates elevated, but within safe range. Blood pressure good. "We're all handling it fine." Do-hyun nodded. "Feels like wearing full combat gear during training." "Remember the mountain exercises with the heavy packs? Similar weight. We'll move slower to save energy. Stay hydrated." They continued walking, just a bit slower than before. Their steps were heavier but steady. None of them looked like they were in pain or struggling. In the observation deck, silence spread. Velthar checked his instruments 3 times. Everything was working correctly. The gravity really was at 2.3. The humans really were just walking through it. "This is impossible," whispered a crystalline alien that looked like living glass. "Their bodies should be breaking down. How are they moving?" Another hour passed. The arena's environmental systems changed again. The air composition shifted. Toxic particles increased. Chemical sensors showed levels that would burn the skin of most species and cause breathing problems even with respirators. The humans stopped and pulled on their breathing masks. The masks covered their mouths and noses but left their hands, arms, and part of their faces exposed to the toxic air. "Should we put on full protective suits?" Yuna asked. Jiwan checked her scanner. The chemicals in the air are mostly ammonia compounds and sulfur dioxide. Unpleasant but not immediately dangerous to human skin in these amounts. "Save the full suits for worse conditions." Minho sniffed through his mask. "Smells like industrial cleaner mixed with rotten eggs. Reminds me of that old factory we trained in." They kept moving. Their exposed skin turned slightly red from the chemicals, but they didn't seem bothered. They worked with their hands uncovered, handling equipment and adjusting gear. Velthar pulled up Earth's file on his display. He read through the atmospheric composition of the human home world. His mandibles clicked faster and faster as he read. Earth's atmosphere contained oxygen at levels that would be toxic to many species. The planet had weather patterns that included violent storms, temperature extremes, and seasonal changes. There were notes about volcanic gases, ocean spray containing salt and minerals, and industrial pollution in populated areas. "Their planet is already toxic," he said aloud. "They evolved breathing air that would poison half the species in this room. The chemicals in the arena are just mildly worse than their normal environment." 3 hours later, the temperature dropped. The displays showed -20 degrees. Ice began forming on the rocks. Wind picked up, creating a wind chill that made it feel even colder. Several observers gasped. A reptilian alien wrapped itself in heating coils. "That temperature would put me into hibernation," it hissed. The humans huddled together in a small circle, sharing body heat. They pulled their jackets tighter and put on gloves. Then they started moving again, doing exercises to stay warm. "Not as cold as that winter training in the northern mountains," Minho said, "doing jumping jacks. Remember that? -30 degrees and we had to sleep outside." "I remember my water bottle froze solid," Yuna replied, running in place, "and we still had to complete the 20-kilometer march." "Everyone's core temperature is stable," Jiwan reported. "Keep moving to maintain heat. We'll set up a better shelter at the next checkpoint." They pushed forward through the cold. Their breath made white clouds in the air. Their faces turned red from the chill, but they didn't stop. They didn't even slow down much. As afternoon turned to evening on the first day, the humans encountered their first combat challenge. 3 drones appeared from behind rocks. These machines were designed to test combat skills at extreme difficulty. They were fast, armored, and equipped with stun weapons that could knock out most species with one hit. The humans reacted instantly. Dohyun gave quick hand signals. The team spread out into a defensive formation they had practiced hundreds of times. Minho took a protected position behind a rock and provided covering fire. Yuna deployed a small electronic device that confused the drone's sensors. Jiwan moved to a flanking position while Dohyun advanced from the center. The fight lasted 90 seconds. The drones were fast, but the humans were faster. They worked together like parts of one machine, each person knowing exactly where the others would be. When it was over, all 3 drones lay disabled on the ground. "All clear," Dohyun said calmly. "Everyone okay?" "I'm good," Minho replied. "No injuries," Jiwan confirmed. "That was easier than the training simulations back home," Yuna said, checking her equipment for damage. In the observation deck, the silence was complete. Even the background hum of the station's system seemed loud. Dozens of aliens stared at the screens, not believing what they had just seen. A warrior from the Korvaxian species, one of the Federation's most respected military races, leaned forward. He was huge, covered in natural armor plates, with 4 arms and powerful legs. "I have trained for 30 years, he rumbled. "Those drones would challenge me. These humans destroyed them in less than 2 minutes, and they're not even breathing hard." Velthar pulled up more data on his screens. He searched through Federation records for any species similar to humans. The more he read, the more worried he became. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, he said slowly, the highest danger rating. The atmosphere alone would sicken most of us. The gravity is higher than 70% of Federation worlds. The temperature swings from below freezing to deadly heat depending on season and location. The planet has violent weather, dangerous animals and toxic plants, and humans evolved there. They evolved to consider all of that normal. A small floating alien spoke up in a squeaky voice. Are you saying this trial, which we designed to be impossible, is just a normal day for them? Not normal, Velthar corrected. The trial is harder than their normal environment. But only a little harder. We thought we were testing their breaking point. Instead, we're just giving them a workout. Night fell in the arena. The humans made camp, setting up a small shelter and taking turns on watch. They ate their rations, shared quiet conversation, and then settled down to sleep. The rotating watch meant someone was always awake, always alert. Before sleeping, Do-hyun filed his daily report through the communication system. His voice was calm and professional. Day 1 complete. Team encountered high gravity, toxic atmosphere, low temperatures, and combat drones. All objectives met, no injuries to report. All team members in good health. Morale high. Ready for Day 2. In the observation deck, Velthar listened to the report 3 times. No injuries. Good health. Morale high. The humans had just survived conditions that should have broken them, and they sounded like they were describing a routine training day. Around him, the observers began talking nervously. Bets were being canceled. The ones who had predicted quick human failure were now wondering if the humans might actually finish the trial. The very thought seemed impossible, but they had seen it with their own eyes. The humans were still going. A scientist from the Silic species who looked like a tall stick with multiple eyes spoke quietly. We may need to reconsider our classifications. If this is what Deathworld species can do, then we have been underestimating them for centuries. Velthar nodded slowly. Day 1 is complete. The humans show no signs of quitting. 3 more days remain. The trial gets harder from here. I designed it to break even the strongest species. But now... He trailed off, watching the sleeping humans on the screen. Now I'm not sure what will happen. The observation deck stayed busy all night. Observers came and went, unable to look away from the screens. Word had spread through the station. Humans were attempting extreme difficulty, and they were surviving. As the first day ended and the second day began, everyone in Nexus 7 had the same question. What were these humans made of? Day 2 brought new challenges. The trial designers had programmed something they called the sleep deprivation protocol. Random loud noises would blast through the arena. Lights would flash at irregular intervals. False alarms would sound, suggesting dangers that weren't there. The goal was to prevent rest and break down mental stability. Most species would start making mistakes after one night of this treatment. Their thinking would become confused. Their reactions would slow down. Within 2 days, many would become unable to complete simple tasks. The humans woke to the first alarm at 3 in the morning, arena time. Do-hyun sat up immediately, weapon ready. The others were on their feet in seconds. They scanned the area, found no real threat, and relaxed. False alarm, Ji-won said, checking her instruments. It's the sleep disruption test. Ah, Do-hyun nodded. Standard psychological warfare. Okay, we switched to combat rotation schedule. 2 people sleep, 2 stay awake. Rotate every 2 hours. This way everyone gets some rest even with interruptions. Minho yawned. Like that mission in the jungle training zone, remember? They kept shooting blanks near our camp to keep us awake. We still finished the exercise. This will be similar, Do-hyun agreed. Yuna and I take first watch. Minho and Ji-won get some sleep. In the observation deck, aliens watched in disbelief. The humans had immediately recognized the psychological attack and adapted their strategy. They treated sleep deprivation as a normal part of military operations. Do they train for this? Asked a young Threndarian scientist. Velthar nodded slowly. Apparently, yes. Human military training includes operating with minimal sleep in hostile conditions. They consider it basic preparation. Later that morning, during a combat exercise, something went wrong. The team was fighting through a group of 6 drones when one machine's stun blast hit Yuna in the arm. She fell back with a sharp cry of pain. Yuna down, Minho shouted. He immediately covered her position, increasing his fire rate. Do-hyun and Ji-won finished destroying the remaining drones in 15 seconds. Then Ji-won rushed to Yuna's side. The stun blast had caused a deep burn along Yuna's left forearm. The skin was red and blistered. It looked painful. In the observation deck, alarms went off. Medical staff stood up, ready to enter the arena for emergency extraction. Several observers called for the trial to stop immediately. But on the screen, something strange was happening. Ji-won examined the wound quickly. Second-degree burn about 10 centimeters long. Painful but not dangerous. Hold still. She cleaned the injury with antiseptic, applied a healing gel, and wrapped it in a bandage. The whole process took 3 minutes. Can you work? Do-hyun asked Yuna. Yuna flexed her fingers, testing the injury. Her face showed pain, but her voice was steady. Yes, sir. I can operate equipment one-handed. The burn is on my left arm and I'm right-handed. Good, Do-hyun said. We continue the mission. Ji-won, monitor her condition. They moved on. Yuna kept working with her technical equipment, using mostly her right hand. She moved a bit slower, but stayed focused on her tasks. When they stopped for a break an hour later, she joked with Minho about his shooting accuracy. Velthar stood frozen at his station. She's injured. She's in pain. Why is she still working? A Federation doctor, a being that looked like a floating jellyfish, responded. Commander, I've been studying human medical data. Their nervous system can compartmentalize pain. They can acknowledge it, even feel it, but continue functioning. It's a survival adaptation, and their healing speed is remarkable. That burn will start improving within hours. That's not normal, another alien whispered. For humans it is, the doctor replied. The afternoon brought a new test, an endurance march. The humans had to reach a checkpoint 40 kilometers away. The terrain was rough with steep hills and loose rocks. The gravity was still at high levels. They had to carry all their equipment. The trial computers calculated that this march was beyond the physical capability of most species. Even with mechanical help, it was designed to be impossible. The humans started walking. They moved at a steady pace, not fast but constant. They didn't stop except for brief water breaks. Do-hyun led, setting a rhythm. The others matched his pace. Their breathing was heavy but controlled. Sweat soaked their uniforms, but they didn't slow down. This is just like the mountain march back home, Minho said during a water break. Remember that 50-kilometer hike with full packs? This is actually shorter. The gravity makes it harder, Ji-won noted, checking everyone's vital signs. But we're all within acceptable stress ranges. Keep the pace steady. 7 hours later, they reached the checkpoint. They arrived 30 minutes ahead of the maximum allowed time. They were tired, sweating, and breathing hard, but they were functional. Do-hyun checked in with each team member, confirmed they could continue, and requested the next objective. The observers sat in stunned silence. That march should have been impossible. The humans had completed it and still wanted to continue. What are they? Someone whispered. The next challenge came at sunset. The trial introduced stealth combat drones, machines designed to hunt using heat detection and movement sensors. These drones were modeled after apex predators from various dangerous worlds. They were supposed to chase the humans, forcing them to run and hide. The first drone appeared from behind a rock formation. It was big, fast, and deadly quiet. It locked onto the human team's heat signatures and began stalking them. Do-hyun spotted it first. He signaled for the team to stop. They went silent and still, watching the drone circle their position. It's hunting us, Yuna whispered, reading her scanner with her good hand. Then let's hunt it back, Do-hyun replied quietly. What happened next shocked every observer. The humans didn't run. They didn't hide. They turned the situation around. Using hand signals, Do-hyun split the team. Minho made noise to attract the drone's attention. When it moved toward him, Ji-won flanked it from the side. Yuna used her equipment to blind its sensors for 3 seconds. In that moment, Do-hyun attacked from behind. The drone was disabled before it understood what happened. 2 more drones appeared. The humans hunted them the same way. They analyzed the drones' patterns, predicted their movements, and destroyed them one by one. In 20 minutes, all the predator drones were gone. The observation deck had gone completely quiet. The Korvaxian War Master stood up slowly from his seat. His 4 arms crossed over his armored chest in a gesture of respect. They are predators, he said in his deep voice. True predators. They don't just survive being hunted. They become the hunters. I have never seen anything like this. Velthar pulled up more information about Earth. He found data about human evolution. Humans had evolved as persistence hunters. They would chase prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. They had evolved to track, to plan, to cooperate in small groups. They had evolved forward-facing eyes, the mark of a predator. They had evolved to be endurance specialists who could outlast almost any threat. "We made a mistake," Velthar said slowly. "We designed this trial to break prey animals, species that survive through hiding or running. But humans aren't prey. They never were. We've been testing predators with prey tactics." A debate started in the observation deck. Some aliens argued the trial should be stopped. It was inhumane, they said, to continue pushing the humans. Others pointed out that the humans hadn't asked to stop. They hadn't even complained. By every measurement, they were succeeding. A small group of military observers from different species gathered in the corner. They spoke in quiet, serious tones. The humans had demonstrated abilities that changed everything: combat endurance beyond any known species, pain tolerance that seemed impossible, the ability to function while injured, tired, and stressed, tactical thinking that turned defensive scenarios into offensive victories. "If humans can do this," one observer said, "then we need to reconsider every assumption we've made about Deathworld species. They're not just tougher. They're fundamentally different from us." As day 2 ended, the human team made camp again. They ate their rations and checked their equipment. Yuna's burn was already looking better, the redness fading at the edges. They rotated watch shifts and settled in for another disrupted night of sleep. Do-hyun filed his report. Day 2 complete. Team completed 40-kilometer march ahead of schedule. Encountered and disabled multiple combat drones. One minor injury. Team member remains fully operational. All personnel in good condition. Morale remains high. Ready for day 3. Velthar listened to the report. Good condition. Morale high. 2 days of impossible challenges and the humans were still going. They sounded almost cheerful. He looked at the timer. 2 more days remained. The hardest challenges were still ahead. And for the first time since creating the extreme difficulty trial, Velthar genuinely believed someone might complete it. Day 4 began with what the trial designers called the maximum stress environment. Every challenge from the previous 3 days would now happen at the same time. High gravity, toxic air, temperature extremes, sleep deprivation, combat drones, all together all at once. The observation deck was packed. Word had spread through the entire station. Humans were on their final day of extreme difficulty. Military leaders from across the Federation had arrived to watch. This was unprecedented, historic. No one wanted to miss it. The environmental systems activated with a roar. Gravity climbed to 2.5. The temperature dropped to -15 degrees. Toxic particles filled the air. Loud noises blasted randomly. Combat drones emerged from hiding spots all around the arena. Most species would have collapsed immediately. The combined stress was designed to be absolutely impossible. The observers expected the humans to finally give up and request extraction. The humans paused for 10 seconds. They looked at each other. Then Do-hyun started giving orders. "Switch to Survival Protocol 7, he said calmly. "Minho, you and I handle combat. Jiwon, monitor everyone's health constantly. Yuna, keep our equipment functional. Move slow to save energy. Clear immediate threats first, then find shelter." They moved into action. Their movements were slower than on day 1, weighed down by the extreme gravity and exhaustion. But they were still coordinated, still efficient. They worked as a team, covering each other, communicating with quick words and hand signals. A drone attacked from the left. Minho destroyed it. Another came from the right. Do-hyun disabled it. They didn't waste energy on fancy tactics. They just did what needed to be done, one step at a time. Jiwon watched her medical scanner. Heart rates elevated but stable. "We're all running on stimulants and adrenaline now. Blood oxygen is lower than ideal due to the toxic air. Everyone's dehydrated despite drinking water regularly. Can we continue?" Do-hyun asked. "Yes," Jiwon replied. "We're tired and stressed but functional. No one is close to collapse." They found shelter in a cave and defended it against waves of drones. The battle lasted 3 hours. By the end, all 4 humans were exhausted. They sat on the cave floor, breathing hard, covered in sweat despite the cold. "This is harder than anything we trained for," Yuna admitted, working on repairs to her equipment with shaking hands. "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. But we faced hard before. Remember that jungle exercise that lasted 2 weeks? Or the desert training where we ran out of water on day 3? We got through those. We'll get through this. Minho laughed, though it sounded tired. At least the food is terrible. Feels like a real military operation. The observers watched in amazement. The humans were acknowledging the difficulty now. They admitted it was hard. But they weren't giving up. They were pushing through. Mid-afternoon brought a new challenge. The trial computer announced a scenario. A building had collapsed with simulated civilians trapped inside. The humans could continue their current mission, or they could attempt a rescue. Most species would choose one or the other. The situation was designed to test moral decision-making under stress. Do-hyun didn't hesitate. Minho, you're with me. We continue the primary mission. Ji-won, Yuna, you handle the rescue. We split up. Split up? Velthar said in the observation deck. That's not. No one does that. The stress is too high to divide the team, but the humans were already moving. Do-hyun and Minho headed toward their mission objective. Ji-won and Yuna went to the collapsed building. Both groups moved with purpose despite their exhaustion. At the building, Ji-won and Yuna found the entrance blocked by rubble. They started moving rocks one piece at a time. It was slow work in the high gravity, but they didn't stop. Yuna used her equipment to scan for life signs. Ji-won calculated the safest way to remove debris without causing more collapse. Meanwhile, Do-hyun and Minho reached their objective, a simulated enemy position. They cleared it with the same efficient tactics they had used all week. 2 people working together like they had trained hundreds of times. Both tasks succeeded. The rescue team pulled out all the simulated civilians. The combat team completed their objective. When they regrouped an hour later, all 4 humans were even more exhausted. But they had accomplished both missions. Impossible, whispered an alien in the observation deck. They did both. They succeeded at both. The Korvaxian War Master nodded slowly. Humans can split their focus even under extreme stress. They can run parallel operations when other species can barely think straight. This is extraordinary. As evening approached, the trial computer announced the final challenge. It was supposed to be impossible. The humans had to infiltrate a fortified position, plant explosive charges, and escape before detonation. The time limit was calculated based on the fastest species in the Federation. It was tight but theoretically possible. For humans carrying extra weight in high gravity while exhausted, the time limit should have been impossible. The team studied the target. It was built on a cliff face with the only entrance being a heavily defended door at ground level. There, Yuna pointed up, at that vertical surface. We can climb it. It's faster than going through the front. Climb, Velthar said in the observation deck. In high gravity? While carrying equipment? That's not possible. The humans began climbing. They used ropes and climbing tools, moving up the cliff face one careful movement at a time. It looked dangerous and exhausting. But they climbed steadily, helping each other, never stopping. They reached the top, planted the charges, and descended faster than they went up. When the explosives detonated, the team was already at a safe distance. The timer showed they had finished with 4 minutes to spare. How did they climb in that gravity? Someone asked. A Federation scientist checked his data. Humans regularly train to scale vertical surfaces. It's a standard skill in their military. They have upper body strength and grip power far beyond their size, and they're apparently comfortable working at heights that would terrify most species. The trial was technically over, 4 days complete. All objectives met. The humans had survived extreme difficulty. But there was one more thing. A hidden final test that Velthar had designed years ago. After the trial ended, participants were told they could rest. But then they were given one more optional mission, a rescue operation in a dangerous area. Every species that had reached day 4 had chosen to rest. The optional mission was just to see who would voluntarily push themselves beyond the requirement. Velthar announced the optional mission to the human team. A facility had collapsed in the arena. Simulated people were trapped. It was dangerous. It was not required. They had already passed the trial. Do-hyun looked at his team. They were exhausted, covered in dirt and sweat. Yuna's arm was still bandaged. Minho could barely stand straight. Ji-won's medical scanner showed everyone was running on empty. Can we do one more? He asked them. Yes, Ji-won said immediately. Let's finish this properly, Minho added. Yuna nodded. We can rest when we're done. They went to the collapsed facility. For 2 hours, they pulled rubble, moved debris, and extracted every simulated casualty. They worked until the job was complete. Only then did they stop. When they finally emerged from the arena, walking slowly through the main door, they found hundreds of aliens waiting. The observation deck had emptied. Everyone had come down to the arena entrance. The humans looked confused. They were just expecting a debriefing and some rest. Velthar stepped forward. His compound eyes reflected the station lights. Slowly, he raised his front legs in the Threndarian military salute, a gesture of respect between warriors of equal standing. Every military officer in the crowd immediately copied the gesture. Hundreds of aliens from dozens of species, all performing their own versions of a military salute. The respect was universal and absolute. Do-hyun looked surprised but returned the salute. His team did the same. They stood there, exhausted humans being honored by an entire station full of aliens, and they still didn't fully understand why everyone was so shocked. To the humans, they had just completed a difficult training exercise. Hard, yes, challenging, certainly, but nothing they couldn't handle with teamwork and determination. To the Federation, they had just witnessed the impossible. A species had completed extreme difficulty. Not just completed it, but exceeded every expectation. The humans had shown capabilities that changed everything the Federation thought they knew about military potential. As the crowd slowly dispersed, Velthar approached Do-hyun privately. "Captain Kim, I need to tell you something. The extreme difficulty was never meant to be finished. I designed it to be impossible. It was a diagnostic tool to understand how different species break under pressure." Do-hyun looked surprised. "It was impossible? But we finished it." "Yes," Velthar said quietly. "You did. You and your team just did something no one in the galaxy thought was possible, and you treated it like a routine training exercise." Do-hyun smiled tiredly. "Well, it was harder than routine. But compared to some of our training back on Earth, it was tough but manageable. We've done survival courses in worse conditions. They just didn't last 4 days." Velthar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter or disbelief. "Your planet must be terrifying." "It's home," Do-hyun replied simply, and in that moment Velthar understood. Earth had created these humans. The medical facility on Nexus 7 was designed to treat dozens of different species. The doctors there had seen injuries from across the galaxy, but they had never seen anything quite like the human recovery process. The 4 humans lay on medical beds while alien doctors ran tests and scans. The doctors kept rechecking their instruments, certain the readings must be wrong. "This is remarkable," said a doctor, who looked like a floating jellyfish with glowing tentacles. "You completed the trial just 6 hours ago. Your cellular damage is already healing. Your muscle stress markers are dropping rapidly. Your immune systems are working at incredible speed." Ji-won sat up on her medical bed looking at her own scanner. "That's normal for humans. Our bodies evolved to recover quickly from physical stress. It's a survival advantage. We heal fast, adapt fast, and bounce back from injuries better than most species realize." "And the burn on Corporal Choi's arm," another doctor noted. "It's already entering the final stages of healing. What would take most species several weeks is happening in days for her." Yuna looked at her bandaged arm. "It barely hurts anymore. Just itches a bit where the new skin is growing." The doctors shared looks. They were beginning to understand that humans were not just physically tough during stress. They were also incredibly resilient afterward. The humans were essentially walking biological repair systems. While the humans rested in the medical facility, the Federation Council held an emergency meeting. The council chamber was huge, with seats arranged in a circle for hundreds of species representatives. Today, every seat was filled. The topic was too important to miss. A holographic display showed highlights from the trial. The humans walking through toxic air, carrying injured teammates, climbing vertical surfaces in high gravity, fighting while exhausted, completing missions that were designed to be impossible. The debate was intense. Some species wanted an immediate military alliance with Earth. They saw the humans as powerful allies who could help protect Federation territory. Others were afraid. They worried that humans were too dangerous, too capable. What if Earth decided to become an enemy instead of a friend? What if these Deathworlders turned their abilities against the Federation? Velthar stood to speak. The chamber quieted to hear him. "I designed the extreme trial," he said. "I have studied combat effectiveness for 40 years. I have seen the best warriors from every major species. And I tell you this, humans are not weapons. They are people. Dangerous people, yes, but people who value cooperation and protection of others. Did you watch the trial? Every decision they made showed concern for each other. They chose to rescue simulated civilians when they could have ignored them. They helped each other constantly. They are strong, but they are not cruel. The Korvaxian War Master stood as well. His massive form towered over most of the council. I agree with Commander Velthar. I have fought beside many species. I have trained countless soldiers. The humans showed not just strength, but honor. They never abandoned their values, even under extreme pressure. I would be proud to serve alongside them. After hours of debate, the council reached a decision. Earth would be offered full military partnership status. This was usually reserved for species with hundreds of years in the Federation. The humans had earned it in 4 days. More importantly, humans would be given a special role. They would serve as specialists for high-risk operations. They would conduct rescue missions in extreme environments. They would go places that would kill other species. And they would help train other species to expand their own capabilities. A week later, Captain Dohyun stood in a training room with 30 alien soldiers from 6 different species. This was his first assignment after the trial. He was supposed to teach Federation military personnel about human survival tactics. Today we're going to practice basic endurance running, he announced. We'll start with just 5 kilometers. Easy pace, nothing too difficult. The alien soldiers looked nervous. 5 kilometers of continuous running was not easy for most species, but they followed Dohyun's lead. He set a gentle pace, one that felt slow to him but challenging to them. Half the class couldn't finish. They had to stop and rest. The ones who completed it were exhausted and needed medical attention afterward. Dohyun looked concerned. Was that too hard? I can reduce it to 3 kilometers next time. A Threndarian soldier clicked his mandibles in amazement. Captain, you don't understand. Most of us have never run that far in our lives. To you it's easy. To us it's an extreme challenge. That was when Dohyun truly understood. Humans weren't just a little tougher than other species. They were fundamentally different. What they considered basic training was advanced or even impossible for most of the galaxy. Sergeant Minho had his own teaching assignment. He was training Federation soldiers in hand-to-hand combat. He demonstrated a technique that involved accepting a minor hit to create an opening for a major counterstrike. You let yourself get hurt? One soldier asked in shock. A small injury to win the fight, Minho explained. Sometimes taking damage is worth it if you can finish the threat quickly. The alien soldiers couldn't understand this concept. Their instinct was to avoid all damage. The idea of accepting pain as a tactical choice was completely foreign to them. Lieutenant Jiwon joined the Federation Medical Corps. She helped develop new emergency treatments that could work across multiple species. Her understanding of human healing helped her see patterns in alien biology that others had missed. Corporal Yuna worked with Federation engineers. She showed them how human equipment was designed to survive rough treatment and extreme conditions. Federation tools were often sophisticated but fragile. Human tools were built to be dropped, thrown, and abused while still functioning. Why do you build everything so tough? An engineer asked her. Because we're going to break it, Yuna replied simply. In combat, things get damaged. We designed for that reality. One evening, Velthar invited Dohyun to his quarters for a private conversation. The Threndarians' living space was beautiful, filled with crystalline decorations and soft lighting. They sat together, drinking beverages from their respective worlds. Velthar's drink glowed softly. Dohyun's tea smelled of earth plants. I need to ask you something, Velthar said. Did you know the trial was designed to be impossible? Dohyun thought about it. No, not really. We knew it would be hard. But by Earth military standards, it was tough but fair. We've done training exercises that lasted longer, in worse conditions. The main difference was the variety of challenges all in one test. That's what amazes me, Velthar replied. You genuinely don't realize how extraordinary you are. You thought you were just doing your job. We were, Dohyun said. That's what soldiers do. We face challenges, we adapt, we complete the mission. It's our purpose. Velthar's mandibles clicked softly. And that, Captain, is why you're so valuable. You don't see yourselves as special. You just do what needs to be done. The galaxy needs more of that attitude. They talked late into the station's night cycle. A friendship was forming between the mantis-like alien and the human soldier. Different species, different worlds, but connected by mutual respect. 6 months after the trial, Earth's status in the Federation had completely changed. The planet was now classified as an apex death world, a new category created specifically for worlds that produce species capable of thriving in the galaxy's most hostile environments. Humans were now serving across Federation space. They led rescue operations on toxic worlds. They trained soldiers from dozens of species. They engineered equipment that could survive anything. They provided medical care in disaster zones where others couldn't function. But perhaps most importantly, they showed other species that limitations were often just perceptions. Aliens who thought they couldn't operate in higher gravity learned they could with proper training. Species that believed they were fragile discovered they were tougher than they realized. Humans didn't make other species feel weak. They made them feel capable. They shared their knowledge freely, teaching survival techniques and endurance methods. They proved that with determination and proper training, almost anyone could expand their abilities. On Earth, Do-hyun and his team returned for a brief visit. They stood on a mountainside in Korea, the same place where they had trained years before. The air was cold and clean. The gravity felt light after months in higher gravity environments. "Remember when we thought the trial would be interesting?" Yuna laughed. "It was interesting," Minho replied, "just not in the way we expected. We thought we'd be tested. Instead, we ended up teaching." "The galaxy is bigger than we imagined," Jiwon added, "but also smaller. We're all just trying to survive and help each other survive. Turns out Earth prepared us well for that." Do-hyun's communication device beeped, a message from Velthar. The Federation had another mission, a hostile environment that needed specialists. Lives were at stake. "When do we start?" Do-hyun sent back. The reply came quickly. "Immediately. The situation is considered extremely dangerous. You're the only team we trust with this mission." Do-hyun looked at his team. They nodded without hesitation. This was their role now. The specialists who went where others couldn't. The ones who treated impossible as just another challenge to overcome.